Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a vehicle that is honestly so much more than just another new electric SUV hitting the market. We are looking at the 2027 Rivian R2. And we aren't just going to treat this like a standard car review because it's really not. This thing is a rolling technological thesis. We're going to uncover its hidden secrets, break down its really impressive specs, and explore the fascinating philosophical battle it represents in the automotive tech world. So let's just dive right in.
To really understand the R2, we have to look at a classic engineering mantra from Lotus founder Colin Chapman, who said, "Simplify, then add lightness." The folks over at Car and Driver brilliantly apply this exact quote to Rivian's strategy here. See, this vehicle is essentially Rivian's crucial second album. They're trying to take the rugged, go-anywhere capability of their massive R1 series and bring it down to the masses. And to actually pull that off, they had to ruthlessly simplify.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the crucial second car, then move into design specs and space, tackle the hardware versus software bet, check out performance and real-world testing, and wrap it all up with the final verdict.
Okay, part one, the crucial second car, and how to beat that sophomore slump. So in automotive manufacturing, building a second, higher volume car is arguably way harder than building your very first one. You're effectively doubling your entire product line, and that means doubling the capital strain, the development costs, supplier contracts, tooling, and yeah, definitely the potential headaches. It's basically second season syndrome. Rivian is in this exact more product, more problems stage right now. So to beat the slump, they had to get really creative. Take the concept of a stressed member. Now, unlike the larger R1, which uses a traditional body-on-frame design, the R2 uses a unibody. To simplify the build, Rivian designed the R2's 88 kilowatt-hour battery pack to actually double as the floorboard of the cabin itself. It becomes a literal structural component. By using these much larger cylindrical battery cells, which are about 6.5 times the size of the ones in the R1, and integrating the pack this way, Rivian says the R2 actually exceeds the chassis stiffness of its much larger older sibling. Pretty clever, right?
Let's move on to Section 2, Design, Specs, and Space. Smart and practical solutions. So the R2 is aimed squarely at dominating the mid-sized EV market, which means it's specifically challenging the absolute heavy hitter in the space, the Tesla Model Y. But Rivian is going with a traditional, boxy SUV shape to maximize usability. Looking at our international sources, they really highlight what they call the vantaggi principali, or the primary advantages. For starters, the R2 features native NACS charging. That means it plugs right into Tesla superchargers with no adapter needed. It also boasts a massive 9.6 inches of ground clearance, giving it off-road attack angles that typical urban crossovers literally just can't match. Inside, the Smart Space maximizes utility with a really capable frunk, seats that fold completely flat, and an incredible party trick, a roll-down rear glass window that operates totally independently of the liftgate.
But hey, practicality isn't everything, right? Get a load of this number, 656. That is the massive combined horsepower generated by the Rivian R2 Performance Model's two permanent Magnus Maximus drive units. It actually operates primarily as a rear-wheel drive vehicle until you really demand the power, and then boom, the front motor clutches in to deliver that staggering output.
And what does that actually mean on the road? Well, it directly translates to a blistering 0 to 60 time of 3.5 seconds. I mean, for a vehicle that weighs nearly 5,000 pounds and kind of looks like a brick, that acceleration is nothing short of breathtaking.
Now let's ground this upcoming philosophical debate in some hard numbers. Take a look at this comparison. At an identical price point of $57,990, the R2 Performance and the Tesla Model Y Performance are completely neck and neck. The Tesla is slightly faster to 60, hitting it in 3.3 seconds, versus the Rivian's official 3.6. But look at the physical capabilities. The Rivian offers more range, over 3.5 inches more ground clearance, and nearly 1,000 pounds more towing capacity. It's a really fascinating trade-off depending on what you value more.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the hardware versus software bet, two philosophies of the smart car.
This is where this explainer gets really exciting, because we aren't just comparing two cars anymore. We're comparing two entirely different, equally valid approaches to what a modern smart car should fundamentally be. Rivian is betting that more hardware means more capability. They're using 11 cameras, 5 independent radar sensors, and they have plans to introduce LiDAR in late 2026. Their whole philosophy is about redundancy. If bad weather blinds the cameras, the radar still sees. Build the physical layer robustly, and the software can always catch up later. Tesla's bet, on the other hand, is completely different. They view hardware as a commodity and intelligence as the true product. Tesla stripped out radar entirely. They use 8 cameras and rely purely on a vision-only system backed by neural nets trained on billions of real-world miles. Their argument is that fusing radar and camera data creates false positives, so going camera only gives a much cleaner signal.
So, how do these two philosophies actually impact the future of the car sitting in your driveway? Well, Tesla's approach means software compounds over time. For example, Tesla recently deployed an over-the-air update that uses its cameras to predict an imminent crash and actually deploys the airbags before impact. That's a software update doing something hardware alone just couldn't do. Rivian's compute architecture is absolutely built for the future too, but their major upcoming advancements, like integrating that LiDAR we talked about, will require a physical trip to a service center for a hardware upgrade, not just a software download while you sleep in your bed.
We also have to talk about efficiency. Data sourced from Lemonade regarding charging times shows the Model Y gets from 10 to 80% in roughly 15 minutes, adding about 144 miles of range. The R2 takes almost exactly double that time, at roughly 29 minutes. As the Lemonade analysis points out, if you think in efficiency terms, this gap directly affects not just your time sitting at a charger, but how you literally have to mentally plan out your road trips.
All right, moving on to Section 4, Performance and Real-World Testing, Behind the Wheel.
So how does all this incredible tech on paper actually translate to the tarmac? Well, Car and Driver's real-world testing proves the R2 delivers a deeply satisfying driving experience. Its autonomy plus hands-free driving system worked predictably and well across all sorts of routes. When pushed, a panic stop from 70 miles per hour required just 178 feet, which is super impressive for a 2.5-ton vehicle. Inside, Rivian introduced these incredible new haptic halo wheels right on the steering wheel spokes. They spin, push, pull, and tilt, offering totally different physical feedback depending on what menu you're in. Now, the testers did note some uncouth suspension thumps and wind rush at highway speeds, recording about 67 decibels at 70 miles per hour. But Rivian smartly included a 13-speaker Dolby Atmos audio system that, when streaming high-res music, completely drowns out that road noise anyway.
One quick aside before we wrap up. We need to touch on the long-term impact of these competing tech philosophies, specifically regarding your cost of ownership. The Lemonade analysis notes that the safety tech you bet on upfront impacts your insurance premiums. Because Tesla's software maturity is so deeply mapped out at this point, drivers using full self-driving can qualify for specialized autonomous car insurance that actually discounts every single mile driven in that mode. Rivian systems are still maturing toward that point, but the principle holds true for both. Better safety systems will eventually change the real cost of owning these vehicles.
And finally, Section 5, the final verdict, a home run at the first at-bat.
The consensus across the board is that this sophomore effort from Rivian is an absolute triumph. Car and Driver even called it a home run at its first at-bat in the mid-size segment. It offers a level of space, off-road capability, and raw swagger that simply doesn't exist anywhere else in this specific EV class right now. It's perfectly positioned to steal buyers, not just from Tesla, but from traditional gas-powered SUV loyalists as well. So I'll leave you with this final question. Which bet do you want to make? Are you a hardware believer who wants the redundancy of radar and the rugged physical capability of a high-clearance SUV? Or are you a software believer who prefers an ever-evolving algorithm and unmatched charging efficiency? Honestly, neither is wrong. It just depends on how you view the future of technology. Thank you so much for tuning into this explainer today. I really hope you learned something new and fascinating about the engineering and the philosophy baked right into the Rivian R2. Keep learning, and we'll see you in the next one.